Valkyra stood in the great hall of the Telvari High Council. The room was big and dark. The walls were made of black stone. The ceiling went up so high that she could not see it. Around her stood the most powerful people in the Telvari Empire. They all looked at her with cold eyes. She was a soldier. She had been a good soldier for many years. She had won battles. She had led troops. She had made her family proud. But now she stood here in shame. Her silver skin looked pale under the bright lights. Her hands were tied in front of her with energy cuffs. The High Arbiter sat on a tall chair above everyone else. He was old, even by Telvari standards. His silver skin had turned gray with age. His eyes were like two pieces of black ice. He held a staff in his hand, the symbol of his power over all matters of law. "Valkyra of House Sorath," he said. His voice filled the entire hall. "You stand before this council to receive judgment for your crimes." Valkyra kept her eyes forward. She did not speak. Among her people, to speak without permission during a judgment was a crime in itself. 3 months ago, the Arbiter continued, during the siege of Kethron, you were given command of a prisoner transport. Your orders were clear. You were to deliver 17 human captives to the detention facility on Terval. These humans were to be used as bargaining tools in our negotiations with Earth. He paused. The silence in the hall was heavy. You did not follow these orders. Instead, you placed the prisoners in an escape pod. You programmed that pod to fly to a human colony. You set them free. A murmur went through the crowd. Valkyra could feel the anger and disgust from all around her. "Do you deny this?" the Arbiter asked. "No," Valkyra said. Her voice was steady. "I do not deny it." "Then you admit to treason, to disobeying direct military orders, to aiding the enemy in a time of war." "I admit to setting the prisoners free, yes." The Arbiter leaned forward. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Valkyra took a breath. She had thought about this moment for 3 months. She had known it was coming since the day she pressed the button that launched the escape pod. "They were children," she said. The oldest was 10 years old by human counting. They were scared. They were crying for their parents. They did not know why they had been taken or what was going to happen to them. "They were enemy assets," the Arbiter said coldly. "Their age does not matter." "They were children," Valkyra repeated. "I could not deliver children to be used as hostages. I could not watch them be threatened or hurt to force their parents to give in to our demands. I am a soldier. I fight other soldiers. I do not make war on children." The hall erupted in angry voices. The Arbiter raised his staff, and the noise stopped at once. "Your feelings do not excuse your actions," he said. "You broke your oath. You betrayed your people. You helped the enemy. I helped 17 scared children find their way home." The Arbiter stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had found the perfect punishment. "For your crimes," he announced, "you are stripped of your military rank. You are removed from House Sorath. Your name will be erased from all family records. You are no longer a daughter. You are no longer a sister. You are nothing." Valkyra had expected this. She had prepared herself for it. Still, hearing the words out loud hurt more than she had thought it would. Her family had been everything to her. Now they were gone. Now she had no one. "But that death is too easy," the Arbiter continued. "Exile is too kind. No, for you we have something special." He waved his hand and a screen appeared in the air beside him. On the screen was a picture of a planet, blue and green and covered in white clouds. Earth, the human homeworld. "You showed mercy to humans," the Arbiter said. "So you will live with them. You will be bound in marriage to one of their kind. You will spend the rest of your life among these creatures you care so much about." The crowd gasped. Marriage to a human was unheard of. It was worse than death. A Telvari who married outside their species became an outcast forever. Their children, if they had any, would be rejected by everyone. It was complete and total erasure. "The human has already been selected," the arbiter went on. "He is a farmer, a man who grows food in the dirt. He has no power, no status, no importance. He lives alone on a piece of land far from any city. You will join him there. You will be his wife." Valkyra felt her heart beating fast. She wanted to scream. She wanted to fight. But she kept her face still. She would not give them the pleasure of seeing her break. "His name is Daniel Harris," the arbiter said, "and he volunteered for this." That word made no sense to Valkyra. Volunteered. Why would any human volunteer to marry a Telvari? They had been enemies for 3 generations. Humans hated her kind. Her kind hated humans. A volunteer made no sense. Why? She asked before she could stop herself. The arbiter laughed. It was an ugly sound. "I do not know, and I do not care. Perhaps he is desperate. Perhaps he is foolish. Perhaps he simply wants a servant. Whatever his reasons, they are not my concern." He stood up from his chair. "You will leave in 1-day cycle. You will take nothing but the clothes you wear. You will never return to Telvari space. If you try to come back, you will be killed on sight." 2 guards came forward and grabbed Valkyra by the arms. She did not resist as they pulled her toward the door. "Enjoy your human, traitor," someone shouted from the crowd. Others laughed. Valkyra did not look back. She walked with her head high as the guards led her out of the hall. She walked as if she was still a soldier, still a daughter of a noble house, still someone who mattered, but inside, she was terrified. That night, in the small cell where she waited for transport, Valkyra allowed herself to cry. She had not cried since she was a small child. Telvari did not cry. It was weakness. It was shame, but no one was watching now. No one would ever know. She thought about the children she had saved. She wondered where they were now. Were they safe? Were they happy? Did they ever think about the silver-skinned soldier who had put them in an escape pod and told them to fly away as fast as they could? She hoped they were home with their families. She hoped they were loved. That was worth this. That had to be worth this. In the morning, the guards came for her. They put her on a small transport ship. They gave her a translator implant so she could understand and speak human languages. They gave her a bag with a few basic items. Nothing else. As the ship lifted off from the surface of her homeworld, Valkyra watched through the small window. She watched the gray cities grow smaller. She watched the dark mountains fade away. She watched until Talvar was just another dot among the stars. She was leaving everything she had ever known. She was going to a strange world to marry a strange man from a species she had been taught to hate. She was alone. And somewhere out there, a human farmer named Daniel Harris was waiting for her. The journey to Earth took 12 days. Valkyra spent most of that time alone in her small cabin on the transport ship. The crew did not speak to her. They brought her food twice a day and left without a word. She was cargo to them. Nothing more. She used the time to study. The ship had a basic computer system, and she spent hours learning about humans. She read about their history. She read about their wars. She read about their culture. The more she learned, the more confused she became. Humans were strange creatures. They fought each other almost as much as they fought other species. They had hundreds of different languages. They had thousands of different beliefs. They seemed to disagree about almost everything, and yet they had survived. They had built cities and ships and weapons. They had spread out across the stars. They had held their own against the Talvari Empire for 3 generations. How did such a divided species become so strong? On the 10th day, Valkyra tried to find information about Daniel Harris. The computer had very little. He was 34 years old. He lived on a farm in a place called Kansas. He had no wife. He had no children. His parents had died 5 years ago. He had one sister who lived in another city. That was all. No military record. No criminal record. No political connections. He was exactly what the Arbiter had said. A man of no importance. Why had he volunteered? On the 12th day, the ship entered Earth's solar system. Valkyra watched through her window as the yellow sun grew larger and brighter. She saw the planets pass by one. Mars with its red dust, Jupiter with its swirling storms, Saturn with its beautiful rings, and then she saw Earth. It was beautiful. She had not expected that. The planet was covered in blue water and green land and white clouds. It looked alive in a way that Talvar never had. Her homeworld was gray and rocky and cold. This world was colorful and warm and full of life. The ship descended through the atmosphere. Valkyra pressed her face against the window like a child. She saw mountains covered in snow. She saw forests that stretched for thousands of miles. She saw cities that sparkled with lights. The ship did not go to any city. It flew over fawnland instead. Endless fields of green and gold stretched out below. Small houses dotted the landscape. Roads cut through the land like thin gray lines. Finally, the ship began to descend toward a small farm. There was a white house with a red roof. A large barn stood nearby. Animals moved in fenced areas. A dirt road led away from the property toward the horizon. And standing beside the house was a man. The ship landed in the field. The door opened with a hiss. Valkyra took a deep breath and walked down the ramp. The first thing she noticed was the air. It smelled different here. It smelled like grass and dirt and something sweet she could not name. The sky was so blue it almost hurt to look at. A warm wind blew across the field, moving the tall grass in waves. Daniel Harris walked toward her. He was tall. His skin was brown from working in the sun. His hair was dark and cut short. He wore simple clothes that were worn from use. His boots were covered in mud. Valkyra stood at the bottom of the ramp and watched him approach. She kept her back straight and her face blank. Among her people, showing emotion was weakness. She would not show this human any weakness. But Daniel did not look at her like she was a prisoner or an enemy or a servant. He looked at her with eyes that seemed warm and curious. He stopped a few feet away from her. "Hello," he said. His voice was quiet and calm. "You must be Valkyra." "I'm Daniel." She nodded once. "Yes, you must be tired. That's a long trip. My neighbor went to visit his daughter on Mars last year, and he said the journey nearly killed him." Valkyra did not know how to respond. She had expected anger. She had expected commands. She had expected coldness. She had not expected small talk about neighbors. "I'm fine," she said. "Well, that's good." He looked up at the ship. The door was already closing. A moment later, the engines fired and the ship lifted off, leaving them alone. They stood in silence and watched it disappear into the sky. "So," Daniel said, "welcome to Earth. Welcome to the farm. I know it's not much compared to what you're used to, but it's home." He started walking toward the house. After a moment, Valkyra followed. "I've set up a room for you," he said over his shoulder. "It's upstairs, at the end of the hall. It has a nice view of the fields. I put some clean sheets on the bed and some towels in the bathroom." "Thank you," she said. The words felt strange in her mouth. "I also put a lock on the door," Daniel added. Valkyra stopped walking. "A lock?" Daniel turned to face her. Yeah, I figured you might want some privacy. Some space. This is all pretty new for both of us. No reason to rush anything. That room is yours. You can lock it whenever you want. She stared at him. Among the Telvari, a husband had complete control over his wife. He controlled where she slept, where she went, what she did. The idea of a private room with a lock was unthinkable. I don't understand, she said. You are my husband now. Why would you give me privacy? Daniel frowned slightly. Because everyone deserves privacy. It's your room. It should be your space. I'm not going to just barge in whenever I want. But you have the right to. I guess legally I do, he said slowly. But having the right to do something doesn't mean you should do it. I want you to feel safe here. I want you to feel comfortable. How can you feel safe if you don't have a space that's just yours? Valkyra did not know what to say. This was not how things worked. This was not how marriage worked. This was not how any relationship between a superior and a subordinate worked. I don't understand you, she admitted. Daniel smiled. It was a small smile, but it changed his whole face. Made it softer somehow. That's okay. We've got time to figure things out. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. It caught the light of the afternoon sun. He held it out to her. I made you something, he said. A welcome gift. I'm not very good at making things, but I wanted to try. Valkyra looked at the object in his hand. It was a pendant on a simple chain. The pendant was made of silver metal and blue stone. The craftsmanship was rough. The lines were not straight. The stone was not perfectly centered, but the symbol carved into the metal made her breath catch in her throat. It was the crest of House Sorath, her family's symbol, the symbol that had been stripped from her, the name that had been erased. How do you know this symbol? She whispered. I did some research, Daniel said. It took a while. Your people aren't exactly eager to share information with humans. But I found someone who's willing to help. A Telvari merchant who trades with Earth sometimes. I know the symbol doesn't mean anything officially anymore. I know your family disowned you, but I thought maybe it still meant something to you. Who you are doesn't have to depend on what they say. Valkyra reached out and took the pendant. Her hands were shaking. She could not remember the last time her hands had shaken. It's probably not right, Daniel continued. I probably got the details wrong. The merchant drew it for me, but I'm not great at copying things, and the metal was hard to work with, and I'm sorry if it's not good enough. She looked up at him. This man, this strange human man who had given her a lock for her door and made her a pendant of a name that everyone else wanted her to forget. Why? She asked. Her voice came out rough. Why did you volunteer for this? Why would you want to marry a Telvari? Daniel was quiet for a moment. He looked out at the fields around them, at the sun beginning to set in the distance, at the clouds turning pink and gold. Because, he said finally, I heard about what you did. The children you saved. I heard the story, and I thought, that's someone who did the right thing, even though it cost her everything. That's someone brave. That's someone good. He looked back at her. I don't know if this will work. I don't know if we'll like each other, or get along, or even be able to live in the same house without driving each other crazy. But I wanted to try. I wanted to give you a place where you could be safe, where you could be free, where no one would punish you for doing the right thing. Valkyra stood there in the golden light of the setting sun, holding a rough pendant in her shaking hands, and felt something shift inside her chest that she did not know what the future would bring. She did not know if she could ever truly belong here on this strange world. But in that moment, for the first time since her judgment, she felt something other than fear and shame. She felt hope. The weeks passed slowly at first. Valkyra spent most of her time in her room, watching the farm through her window. She watched Daniel wake up before the sun. She watched him feed the animals. She watched him work in the fields until the light faded. He never asked her to help. He never demanded anything from her. Every morning, he knocked on her door and asked if she wanted breakfast. Every evening he knocked again and told her dinner was ready. Sometimes she came down. Sometimes she did not. He never complained either way. It was strange. Everything about this place was strange. On the 10th day, Valkyra came downstairs and found Daniel sitting at the kitchen table. He was reading something on a small screen and drinking coffee. He looked up when she entered and smiled. "Good morning. There's food on the counter if you're hungry." She served herself and sat down across from him. They ate in silence for a while. Valkyra studied the kitchen around her. It was simple but clean. The walls were painted yellow. There were plants growing in pots on the windowsill. Pictures hung on the walls showing people she did not recognize. "Who are they?" she asked, pointing at one of the pictures. Daniel looked up. "That's my parents. They passed away 5 years ago. Car accident. I'm sorry." Thanks. They were good people. They would have liked you, I think. My mom always said you could tell a lot about a person by what they were willing to sacrifice. I think she would have respected what you did." Valkyra did not know what to say to that. Among her people, parents were important but distant. Children were raised by teachers and trainers more than by their families. The idea of parents who were present and kind and who their children actually missed was foreign to her. What was she like? Valkyra asked. "Your mother?" Daniel's face softened. She was tough. Grew up on a farm herself and worked hard her whole life. But she was kind too. She used to take in stray animals all the time. Dogs, cats, even a pig once. Dad pretended to be annoyed, but he always helped her take care of them. And your father? Quietest man I ever knew. He could go days without saying more than 10 words. But when he did talk, it mattered. He taught me everything I know about farming. About life too, I guess." Daniel paused. "He always said that the measure of a man is how he treats people who can't do anything for him." Valkyra thought about that. It was such a strange way to think. Among the Talvari, you treated people based on their rank, their power, their usefulness. The idea of treating everyone the same regardless of what they could offer you was almost incomprehensible. "I would like to help," she said suddenly. Daniel raised his eyebrows. "Help with what?" "The farm. You work alone." "I could help." He studied her for a moment. "You don't have to do that. You're not a servant here. You're not obligated to work. I know. But I want to. I am not used to doing nothing. Among my people, everyone has a purpose, a job. I feel useless just sitting in my room." Daniel smiled. "Okay then. We'll start simple. You can help me feed the chickens this morning." That was how Valkyra began to learn about farming. The chickens were strange creatures. They made constant noise. They ran around without any apparent purpose. They were not afraid of her at all, which surprised her. Most animals on Talvar ran away from people. "They're used to me," Daniel explained. "They know I bring food. They associate people with good things. Well, most of the time." He showed her how to scatter the feed. The chickens gathered around, pecking at the ground. Some of them walked right over her feet. "You name them?" Valkyra asked, noticing a collar on one of the larger birds. "That's Henrietta. She's the boss around here. Been with me for 6 years now. Outlived all the others from her batch. You name your food." Daniel laughed. "Yeah, I know. Doesn't make much sense, does it? But they're alive. They have personalities. Seems wrong not to acknowledge that. On Talvar, we do not name animals. They are resources. Nothing more. Maybe that's the difference between us, Daniel said. He did not say it in a mean way, just matter of fact. Humans get attached to things. We can't help it. We name our pets. We name our cars. Some people name their plants. We see something alive and we want to connect with it. Valkyra thought about that as she scattered more feed. She watched Henrietta strut around like she owned the place. There was something almost funny about it. A small bird acting like a commander. She reminds me of my old commanding officer, Valkyra said. Daniel burst out laughing. It was a warm sound that made something in Valkyra's chest feel lighter. Over the next few weeks, she learned more. She learned how to collect eggs without getting pecked. She learned how to check the fences for damage. She learned how to drive the old tractor, even though it scared her at first. She learned the names of the crops and when they needed water and when they were ready to harvest. She also learned about Daniel. She learned that he read books every night before bed. She learned that he sang to the animals when he thought no one was listening. She learned that he called his sister every Sunday and talked to her for hours about nothing in particular. She learned that he donated part of his harvest to families in town who could not afford food. One evening, they sat on the porch and watched the sun go down. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Valkyra had never seen so many colors in a sunset before. On Tolvar, the sky was always gray. Can I ask you something? Daniel said, double quotes, yes. Do you ever regret it? What you did? Valkyra was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the children. She thought about their faces when she opened the cage and told them they were going home. She thought about the youngest one, a little girl who could not have been more than 4 years old, who had hugged her leg and said thank you before climbing into the escape pod. No, she said. I do not regret it, even though it cost you everything. It did not cost me everything. It cost me my rank, my name, my home. She paused. But those things were given to me by others. They could always be taken away. What I chose to do was mine. No one can take that from me. Daniel nodded slowly. That's a good way to look at it. Among my people, we are taught that honor comes from obeying orders, from serving the empire, from putting the collective good above everything else. But I looked at those children and I thought, what good is an empire that hurts children? What honor is there in following orders that are wrong? That's a dangerous question to ask. Yes, and look where it got me. She gestured at the farm around them. Married to a human, living in the dirt, growing food. Daniel looked at her. Is that so bad? Valkyra considered the question seriously. The farm was nothing like her old life. There was no rank here, no status, no power struggles. There was just work and rest and food and sky. There was just Daniel, who asked nothing of her and gave everything. No, she said finally. It is not bad. It is different, but not bad. Daniel smiled. He reached out and gently touched her hand. It was the first time he had touched her since she arrived. His skin was warm and rough from work. I'm glad you're here, he said. Valkyra looked at their hands. Among her people, touch was rare and formal. It meant ownership or control or dominance. But this touch meant none of those things. It was just a connection. Just two people reaching across the distance between them. I am glad too, she said. And she meant it. That night, she dreamed of the children she had saved. In her dream, they were older now. They were playing in a field of golden grass under a blue sky. They were laughing. They were safe. When she woke up, she was smiling. 3 months had passed since Valkyra arrived on Earth. The farm had become familiar to her now. She knew every field, every fence, every animal by name. She woke with the sun and worked beside Daniel until it set. Her hands had grown rough from labor. Her silver skin had darkened slightly from working outside. She was happy. It surprised her how happy she was. That morning started like any other. Daniel made breakfast while Valkyra fed the chickens. The sky was gray with clouds. A storm was coming. They would have to work fast to get the animals secured. "Valkyra," Daniel called from the house. "You need to come see this." There was something in his voice that made her stomach tighten. She walked quickly to the house and found him standing at the window, looking out at the field. A ship was descending from the sky. It was small and sleek and black. It bore the markings of the Tolvari diplomatic corps. Valkyra felt her blood go cold. "Were you expecting visitors?" Daniel asked. "No, but I know who this is." The ship landed at the edge of the property. The door opened and a figure stepped out. He was tall and silver-skinned. He wore ceremonial armor that gleamed even under the gray sky. He walked with the confidence of someone who had never been denied anything in his life. "Calvorn." "Her brother. Stay inside," Valkyra said to Daniel. "Not a chance." She looked at him. His jaw was set. His eyes were steady. He was not afraid. "He is dangerous," she said. "Then you shouldn't face him alone." Before she could argue, he walked out the door. She followed. KEL single quotes VORN stopped a few feet from the porch. His eyes swept over the farm, the house, the mud-covered ground. His lip curled in disgust. "Sister," he said. The word sounded like an insult. "I see you have adapted well to your new life. Rolling in the dirt like an animal." "Calvorn, why are you here?" "The council sent me. It has been 3 months. I am here to assess your rehabilitation." He looked at Daniel. "And to see the creature they gave you to." Daniel stepped forward. "My name is Daniel Harris. You must be the brother." Calvorn stared at him like he was looking at an insect. "It speaks." "He speaks," Valkyra said sharply. "And you will treat him with respect while you are on his land." Her brother laughed. It was a cold sound without any warmth. "Respect? For this? A primitive who grows plants in the ground, who lives in a wooden box. Sister, have you fallen so far that you think this creature deserves respect?" "Yes," Valkyra said. "I do." Calvorn's expression hardened. "Then your rehabilitation is not progressing. The council hoped that living among these humans would teach you the truth about them, that you would see how weak they are, how inferior, that you would understand why your mercy was misplaced." "I understand more than I ever did before," Valkyra said. "I understand that strength is not about power or rank or conquest. It is about choosing to do what is right, even when it is difficult. It is about treating others with kindness, even when you do not have to." "Kindness," Calvorn spat the word. "Kindness is weakness. The Empire was not built on kindness. It was built on strength and will and the blood of our enemies. And look what that Empire does with its strength. It captures children. It uses them as hostages. It punishes anyone who dares to show mercy. Those children were the enemy. They were children." The two siblings stood facing each other. The air between them crackled with tension. Daniel had not moved from his spot on the porch. He watched the exchange with careful eyes. Calvorn's hand moved to the blade at his hip. "Perhaps the council was wrong. Perhaps you cannot be rehabilitated. Perhaps you are simply broken. A defective Talvari who has forgotten her place. My place is here now. Your place is wherever the Empire says it is. You exist at the council's pleasure. Your life belongs to them. Your death would be nothing more than correcting a mistake." Daniel stepped off the porch. "That's enough." Calvorn turned to him. "What did you say?" "I said that's enough. You're on my property. You're threatening my wife. I'm asking you to leave." For a moment, Valkyra thought Calvorn would draw his blade. His hand tightened on the hilt. His eyes narrowed to slits. Do you understand what I am, human? I am a commander of the Telvari fleet. I have killed thousands of your kind. I could end your life with one blow, and no one would ever hold me accountable. Maybe, Daniel said. His voice was calm. But I'm still asking you to leave. Why would I listen to you? Because it's the right thing to do. Because threatening people is wrong. Because whatever problems you have with Valkyra, you're not going to solve them with violence. Kelvorn stared at him. Then he laughed again. But this time, there was something different in the sound. Something almost confused. You are not afraid, he said. I threaten your life, and you are not afraid. I'm afraid of plenty of things, Daniel said. Losing this farm, letting down my neighbors, making my sister worry. But I'm not afraid of bullies. I've dealt with bullies my whole life. They're all the same. They're loud and they're scary, but most of the time, they're just as lost as everyone else. They just don't know how to show it. The silence stretched out. Kelvorn's hand slowly moved away from his blade. You are either very brave or very stupid, he said. A little bit of both. Probably. Valkyra felt something shift in her chest. Pride. She was proud of this human, who stood up to her warrior brother without flinching, who spoke truth to power without raising his voice. Would you like to stay for breakfast? Daniel asked. Kelvorn blinked. What? Breakfast. Food. I made extra this morning because I thought the storm might keep us inside. There's plenty if you're hungry. You would feed me? After I threatened to kill you? Sure. I figure you didn't come all this way just to fight. And I'm guessing the food on your ship isn't great. Military rations never are. Valkyra watched her brother's face cycle through confusion, suspicion, and something that might have been curiosity. I have been on that ship for 8 days, Kelvorn admitted slowly. Then come inside. Have some real food. Tell me about whatever assessment you're supposed to be doing. We can talk like civilized people instead of threatening each other in the rain. The first drops of the storm began to fall. Kelvorn looked up at the sky, then at the warm light spilling from the farmhouse windows. Very well, he said finally. I will accept your hospitality, though I do not understand why you offer it. That's okay, Daniel said. You don't have to understand. You just have to eat. They went inside. Daniel served food while Valkyra watched her brother sit awkwardly at the wooden table. Kelvorn looked around the kitchen like he had never seen anything like it. The yellow walls, the plants on the windowsill, the pictures of Daniel's parents. It is very small, Kelvorn said. It's cozy, Daniel replied. Everything I need is within arm's reach. They ate in silence for a while. The storm grew stronger outside, rain pelting against the windows, thunder rumbling in the distance. This food, Kelvorn said slowly. It is not terrible. Daniel grinned. High praise. Valkyra watched her brother chew thoughtfully. Something had changed in him since they came inside. The anger was still there, but it was muted now, hidden beneath something else. You are not what I expected, Kelvorn said to Daniel. When I heard about this arrangement, I assumed you were desperate, pathetic, someone who could not find a mate among his own kind. A reasonable assumption. But you are not those things. You stand up to threats. You offer kindness to enemies. You treat my sister like she has value. She does have value. Everyone does. Kelvorn set down his fork. He looked at Valkyra. Perhaps, he said slowly, I have misjudged some things. It was not an apology. It was not acceptance. But it was something. A crack in the wall. Will you tell the council that my rehabilitation is failing? Valkyra asked. Kelvorn was quiet for a long moment. Rain streamed down the windows. Thunder rolled across the sky. I will tell them, he said finally, that you are exactly where you should be. He stood up. I must go. The storm will make takeoff difficult if I wait much longer. Daniel walked him to the door. Take some food for the journey. Those military rations really are terrible. Kelvorn accepted the package Daniel handed him. He looked at it like he did not quite know what to do with it. Human, he said. Daniel, thank you. Then he walked out into the storm and flew away. Valkyra stood at the window and watched his ship disappear into the clouds. She felt Daniel come up beside her. That could have gone worse, he said. Yes, it could have. Do you think he meant it? That you're where you should be? Valkyra thought about her brother's face as he ate human food at a human table. She thought about the crack in his wall. I think, she said, he is beginning to wonder if everything he was taught is true. Daniel took her hand. That's a start. Yes, she agreed. It is a start. 1 year had passed since Valkyra first stepped off that transport ship and onto Daniel's farm. 1 year of learning. 1 year of growing. 1 year of becoming someone new. She stood at the kitchen window, watching the sun rise over the golden fields. The harvest was almost done. The barn was full. The animals were healthy. Everything was exactly as it should be. Daniel was still asleep upstairs. He had worked late the night before, fixing a problem with the irrigation system. Valkyra had brought him coffee and held the flashlight while he worked in the dark. They had laughed when he splashed water all over himself. They had stayed up talking until the stars came out. She loved him. She knew that now. It had crept up on her slowly, day by day, moment by moment. It was not the love she had been taught about on Talvar, the formal bonding of families for political advantage. It was something else. Something real. Something that made her chest ache when he smiled. Her tablet beeped. A message had arrived. Valkyra picked it up and read the words on the screen. Then she read them again. By order of the High Council of the Tovari Empire, your exile is hereby lifted. You are pardoned of all crimes. You may return to Talvar and reclaim your name, your rank, and your position in House Sorth. A transport will be sent within 10 days. She stared at the screen for a long time. She could go home. After a year of exile, after losing everything, she could have it all back. Her name, her family, her honor. She could be a soldier again. She could walk the halls of power with her head held high. All she had to do was leave. What's that? Daniel's voice made her jump. He was standing in the doorway, his hair messy from sleep, his eyes still half closed. A message, she said. From the council. Good news or bad news? I do not know. She handed him the tablet. He read it slowly, his expression changing as the words sank in. You can go home, he said quietly. Yes, that's great. That's what you wanted, isn't it? To have your life back? Valkyra looked at him. He was trying to smile, but it did not reach his eyes. His hands were gripping the tablet too tightly. Daniel, she said. No, really, this is good. This is what should happen. You shouldn't be stuck here because of some stupid punishment. You're a soldier. A good one. You should be out there doing important things, not feeding chickens and fixing fences. Daniel. I mean, we always knew this was temporary, right? The council sent you here as punishment. If the punishment is over, then you should go. You should go back to your people, your family, your real life. I'll be fine. I was alone before you came. I can be alone again. Daniel. He finally stopped talking. His eyes were shining with something that might have been tears. What? She took the tablet from his hands and set it on the counter. Then she took his hands in hers. They were rough and warm and familiar. They felt like home. I'm not going anywhere, she said. What do you mean? I mean that I am staying here. With you. On this farm. Daniel shook his head. Valkyra, you can't. This is your chance to get everything back. Your name, your rank, your family. How can you give that up? Those things were given to me by others. They were taken away by others. They are not truly mine. She squeezed his hands. But this, what we have built here, this is ours. This is real. And I will not leave it behind. Are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Daniel stared at her. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his face. A real smile this time, one that lit up his whole being. You're staying, he said. I'm staying. You're really staying? Yes, Daniel. I am really staying. He pulled her into his arms. She let him. She wrapped her arms around him in return and pressed her face against his shoulder. He smelled like earth and sweat and something sweet she had come to love. I was so scared, he admitted. When I read that message, I thought for sure you would leave. I thought this whole year was just a dream that was about to end. No dream, she said. This is real. I am real, and I am not going anywhere. They stood there for a long time, holding each other in the morning light. Later that day, Valkyra sent a reply to the council. She thanked them for the pardon, but declined their offer. She had found a new home, she wrote. A new purpose. A new life. She did not expect them to understand. She was not sure she fully understood it herself. But it was the truth. That evening, she and Daniel sat on the porch and watched the sun go down. The sky turned orange and pink and purple, colors she had learned to love during her time on Earth. Among my people, Valkyra said, there is an old tradition. When a bride truly chooses her husband, she speaks his name at sunrise on the anniversary of their joining. It is a declaration of commitment, a promise that cannot be taken back. Daniel looked at her. And what does the husband do? He speaks her name in return. If he wants to keep her, what happens if he doesn't speak? Then the marriage is dissolved. The bride is free to leave. Daniel nodded slowly. So tomorrow morning, at sunrise, we do this? If you want to, I want to. They sat in comfortable silence as the last light faded from the sky. The stars came out one by one, different constellations than Valkyra had grown up with, but beautiful in their own way. Thank you, she said. For what? For the lock on the door. For the pendant. For the breakfast you offered my brother. For every small kindness, every gentle word, every moment when you treated me like I had value. You showed me what strength really looks like. It looks like patience. It looks like compassion. It looks like choosing to be good when you could just as easily be cruel. That's just being a decent person. Among my people, it is revolutionary. Daniel took her hand. They sat together under the stars. Two people from different worlds who had somehow found each other. The next morning, Valkyra woke before the sun. She dressed quietly and walked out to the field where she had first arrived 1 year ago. Daniel was already there, waiting for her. The horizon began to glow. Pink light spread across the sky. Birds began to sing in the distance. Ready? Daniel asked. Ready. The first edge of the sun appeared over the fields. Golden light spilled across the land. Valkyra, Daniel said. His voice was steady and sure. Daniel, she replied. They stood facing each other as the sun rose higher, bathing them in warmth and light. It was done. The promise was made. They belonged to each other now, not because any council had ordered it, but because they chose it. So, Daniel said, what now? Valkyra smiled. Now we feed the chickens. He laughed. She laughed too. Then they walked back toward the house, hand in hand, to begin another day. In the years that followed, Valkyra would often be asked why she stayed. Visitors, reporters, even other Telvari who had heard her story would travel to the farm and ask the same question. How could she give up everything to live among humans? Her answer was always the same. He gave me a lock from my door, she would say. And then he never asked me to use it. He made me a pendant with a name everyone else wanted me to forget. He offered breakfast to an enemy who threatened to kill him. He taught me that strength is not about conquest or power. It is about choosing to be kind when you could just as easily be cruel. She would pause then, looking out at the fields where she had learned to plant and harvest and build a life. He showed me what humanity really means. And it turns out humanity is not about what species you are. It is about how you treat others. By that measure, my husband is the most human person I have ever known. And then she would smile and go back to work, because there were always animals to feed and fences to fix and a life to live. A good life, a human life, a life she had chosen.